They want more revenue, more profit, less manpower. And they know that the only way to do that is by removing frictions and optimizing the consumer journey.
Hi, I'm Russ, and this is the Memory Makers Podcast, the show that helps you create amazing customer experiences and make more memories. Yeah, we're talking Memory Makers Podcast. I don't even know what jingle that is from, Mike, so we may have to add that into the bloopers once I remember where my brain went. But we're going to fast track right into this episode, gang. I am joined by none other than Miss Sara Paz, and she is the Chief Marketing Officer and Growth Officer at Embed. But if you check out her LinkedIn, you actually have some other cool titles, Sara, including Chief Cheerleader, Marketing Junkie, and Media Maven, which I love.
Yes.
Yes. Well, so excited to have you here. And
thank you.
Sara and I have been discussing, hey, what's going to be something that really moves the needle for whether you're a new startup or you're an existing operator, some ways that we can look at how technology is going to help us weather storms, whether there are curveballs like tariffs coming into the mix, or we have just rising cost of goods and operational things. And so, Sara, you have been with Embed for about 6 years now. And before I get into how you got into our crazy world of all things family entertainment, I also saw on your LinkedIn page you have this group that you've been actively stewarding called Crone Queen, and I love the name and just needed to learn a little bit more about it.
Oh, yes. Crone Queen is a passion project, and it's just very much about, a new philosophy for living and the unlimited power that goes with, authenticity, right? And living your best life and just continuing to grow. And it's, as you know, Embed has a 50% gender parity. And I think at this point, it is now 66% gender parity in favor of females. So we have more female chief executives on our executive team than we do non. And that is unheard of at a technology company. So obviously every March for Women's History Month and then International Women's Day, we go big and we celebrate all the women in the industry with a massive campaign. And, I'm going to have to come back, I think, later during that time period and have a chat with you about Crone Queen and the importance of, light posse and having your own light posse and, and the queendom and all those things. But we won't talk about that today.
Well, as a person who was raised by 4 older sisters, I'm picking up what you're putting down. So, and a guy who married up well above his station. I'm all about it. So, as we were talking about at the beginning, obviously tariffs, huge buzzword right now where it's, oh my gosh, our costs are going up. How do we maintain profitability? Where are we going to have to cut back? What are we going to have to charge more for that we weren't? And you had this really, you and the team at Embed were both like, pump the brakes. We don't necessarily need to go into full panic mode about this. We just need to be a little bit more intelligent and intentional about what tools we're using to help offset some of these costs and have some really good insights into maintaining what's going to be a profitable business for us moving forward. And
that's right.
I know you guys do that through a ton of different ways. One of just, hey, what's better data reporting? What are good insights that we can have? But one thing that you guys had mentioned that I'm curious about this because I feel like it's going to be the next thing that hits our industry. And you were talking about, how you guys are achieving that with things like mobile wallet and digital payment systems. So I wanted to keep it a little bit high level with some of that stuff first and see, hey, where and how can this move the needle? And really help those who are newer to the industry understand, hey, like 10 years ago when we were going through this whole, should I go to a card system or should I stay on tickets? Okay, it was cute, but holy moly, the numbers don't lie. And it was just silly, ridiculous how much more profitability, better guest experience, win-win-win across the board it was with moving to a swipe system. And I feel like now we're getting into that same piece when it comes to digital payment systems and mobile wallets as far as, hey, how do we get more in the customer's hands? How do they have a better experience? And how do we not pull our hair out with trying to manage a tech stack, which ultimately is simple and solid for our business?
Absolutely. And I think, you know what? This is an excellent way to start ourselves here. And what a great preamble, Russ. Let me tell you, you started by talking about creative titles, okay, and creativity. right? And the reality is that anyone in this industry is, at their very core and their very essence, a fun crusader. Okay. So it's during times like this when we have, let's say, some geopolitical strife or, the tariffs, because there isn't a single individual, whether you are a supplier, whether you're B2B or B2C, everyone is being impacted by all of these things that are happening. They are unsettling, right? And unsettling to the point where people start then, nickel and diming their own customers because they're thinking, okay, do I just pass this on to my customers? Do I increase my prices too? Like, how do I navigate this, right? And there have been many kind of conversations about the little tweaks and things that you can do to your system setup to pass these costs on to your customers without your customers realizing it. So I'm not going to cover that. Instead, what I'm going to cover is the fact that if we are indeed crusaders, we got to put that crusader hat on. Okay. And we got to be really, really smart about the technology that we're using. And to the point that you just made, no technology is not an option. Okay. Unless you're planning on going out of business, you have to have some sort of cashless system. And the numbers are out there. Okay. The numbers basically are the following. If I am a consumer and I walk up to your kiosk, or I walk up to your game, I should say, and I have cash. Okay, and all I have is cash, I'm going to pay $9.90. That's about what I'm going to spend is $9.90. Okay, if I'm getting a game card with cash, $9.90. Okay, or if I'm going up to a game, $9.90. Okay, and every single time that I am about to top up or I'm about to play, I'm going to think, do I want to spend another $9.90? Okay, and that is what you would call nickel and diming. Okay, but if a customer walks up to a cashless system with a credit card, okay, to get a game card, they are going to spend on average $30. Now, do you want to make $9.90 or would you like to make $30? It's like, it's obvious, right? I want to make $30.
Right.
Okay. And when you reload, $9.90 or $30, I'll make $30. Thank you very much. Okay, excellent. And here's the thing, I'm not even going to get into the cost of managing, cash, right? And it's ridiculous. So people, I still am astounded when I hear people say cash is king. No, it's not. Now, when you're running a business, when you're going to be running back and forth to the banks, when you actually have to have dedicated personnel who are just counting it and keeping track of it versus just having an online system that is automated and telling you how much you're making and all of it being contactless so that not at any given point are you worried about fraud.
Absolutely.
Okay. But now let's get into mobile payments.
Let's do it.
Okay, because this is where the plot thickens. Okay.
Okay.
Really, it does. It thickens, but in the sense that the pandemic, while difficult, was the biggest favor that ever happened for contactless payments, right? Because it accelerated what was already happening, and that was contactless payments, mobile payments.
Yes.
Okay? Meaning people don't want to touch cash, and they also don't want to walk around with a bunch of debit cards, right? That they're afraid of losing, that they actually have to keep track of. So by being able to put your mobile wallet or your game card into your mobile wallet, okay? When you spend, you will spend a minimum of $50, okay? And the reason for that is simply because you're not afraid of losing that game card. You're not afraid of, having to keep track of it. It is sitting in your mobile phone. So it's $50, okay?
Right.
And so if I'm an operator, it's as simple as, would you like to get $30 or would you like to get $50? Yeah. And in some cases, I might add, it's much higher, like hundreds. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. And here's where the magic really happens. Okay. And the magic is that 60% of customers that are using mobile wallet are topping up before they even get to the venue. Right.
That's what I'm talking about.
Right. That's exactly what we're talking about. Right. It's plug and play. Right. And so when we think about what do fun crusaders want, right? They're business owners of FPCs. They want more revenue, more profit, less manpower. And they know that the only way to do that is by removing frictions and optimizing the consumer journey. That would be the very epitome of optimizing that consumer journey, is enabling customers to top up even before they've arrived at your venue. So they can just literally, there's no standing in line, there's no wasting time. They're going directly into your venue and playing. And so those are the virtues, if you will, of mobile wallet.
Well, and I've been on this soapbox, and again, it's of recent just because I've been at so many educational events with new startups where I'm like, if you are not setting your business up to be able to do online booking and reservations besides birthday parties, like anybody that just wants to be able to walk in. They're looking, if you've got a group of young adults that are having their social competition time, they're picking where they want to go from their phone. And if they can't reserve their bowling lane or book their activities at your venue prior to coming, you're leaving money on the table. And this is such a direct extension of that, of not only
That's
can I
right.
book my bowling, but I can actually get my game card paid in advance. And holy cow, I'm in this high emotional state of getting jazzed up by all the cool things that are there to do. This is, if they can't have the convenience of being able to do all of this when they can already do Uber Eats and all convenience at your fingertips, we have to build our infrastructure and change our infrastructure over to that mobile first piece, I feel like. Otherwise, to your point, significant differences. And you're talking about some places where it's gosh, I'd really like to have my per cap total spend be
That's right.
what they're going to put on the game card alone on average by having this more convenient approach to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that we talked about, some examples, right? Who are some of the FECs that are doing this?
Yeah.
Now, what I can tell you is from small to large FECs around the globe are using mobile wallet, the mobile wallet product.
Mm-hmm.
And the best example that I'm going to give to you of the possibilities, right, is the one customer I have that has $1 million days.
Ooh.
$1 million days in Asia.
Yeah.
And that's about all I'm going to say without, revealing more data, right?
Okay.
But literally say $1 million days. Okay. And they're so smart. And let me tell you why. They're smart because they literally, when they saw their reload numbers, okay, and when they saw where consumers were reloading, which is outside the venue, meaning we're making money and consumers are not even in our venue. What they did is they threw all of their promotions towards mobile. Right
on.
And,
okay.
And incentivizing the usage thereof, because they knew that they're not only are they getting customer information and being able to drive bounce back offers, but they're getting critical data that enables them to see when are people spending, is it outside the venue or in venue, what are the games that they're playing, what are the key timings, and that enables them then to future-proof their business,
Nice.
right? So then it starts becoming a value conversation and not a volume conversation.
Very nice. Yeah. Well, and when you, especially in today's market, even in the North American landscape, where we see we're going to see 18% growth within the, whether you call it location-based entertainment, location-based venue, FEC,
Yes.
bowling entertainment center, pick your out-of-home entertainment box that will hopefully have some food and beverage that goes with it. Right. And we're going to see 18% growth over the next 5 years. And so that means there's going to be more competition in our markets than there were before. And so it doesn't mean that the guests are going to be going out less. They're going to be going out more, but they may not. When they used to come to your venue maybe 3 or 4 times a year, now maybe they only come 2 to 3 times a year. And so when we're going to deal with that pseudo shrinkage, how do we beef back up if they're coming 3 times instead of 4, how do I get them to spend like they were coming 4 times a year? So that way then, as I also bring in new guests and everything else, we can still have this really great compounding effect of how to positively impact our business. And I feel like this is an easy way of, hey, how do we prime this pump? How do we get them comfortable and confident with the experience before they've even stepped through the door? And then once they're there, the reloads, and to your point, having some of these mobile incentives around. So is that similar to what if I'm running a kiosk and I do this package, hey, I get 20% more things, but on the website now it's, hey, go ahead and book your mobile wallet card and get 20% more with this tiered package value that you're doing.
Let me tell you, it's that and more.
Okay.
And that was the key learning that we had early on in 2019, is where we basically said, we looked at some of the best practices specifically out of the Asian player that was the first one to adopt it with 400 locations. So, they did it on scale.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And they have never looked back. They just continued going. And so what we did with our North American FEC industry and our customers, or members of the Embed family, I should say, is we literally said to them, here are these best practices. Okay, literally, here's everything that these other players are doing. This is the success that they have, and this is the success that you can have. And at the same time, what we said to them, and this is all part of layering value, right? The education process is the ability to be able to say, look, you can't set it and forget it. You got to train your staff. If you want to drive a change in behavior, you actually have to put incentives and promotions around it. And so what we found is specifically in North America with a lot of the SME, small, medium enterprise players, is they don't have the resources to make posters and promotional materials. They can run a promotion,
Right.
but they just don't have the disposable income to be able to design things. So that's why we said, okay, Embed is going to do it for you. Right. And we printed all the assets from like staff t-shirts to a staff cheat sheet with instructions on how to, support and help customers to take their game card and put it in their mobile wallet, as well as instructions that go on the kiosk, wobblers that are on the readers. Okay. So literally it's the entire consumer journey, including the digital. And we put it on a kit. We said it's for free. And here you go.
Nice. Well, and I love that from a number of instances. One is, okay, if I'm going to make an investment into something, their change is always somewhat disruptive. And so it comes down to us as an operator of, okay, how do we make sure that we're losing the old muscle memory? We're really, taking these new best practices that are going to help this and get everybody on board with it to really dial in. But again, removing friction points for them okay, great. Like
right.
you're going to be doing your daily Facebook posts and talking about your programming, your specials. Same functionality of what you were doing in the analog aspect of it, of like when they get in here and yada yada, but now we also get the aspect of all of the other intangibles where it comes into just being able to like, hey, we know what we're going to be getting, we're priming those pieces, but in our Facebook ad now we're just saying, ooh, and book your mobile, like load up your digital payment here, like here's that new thing. It's like, if I'm a bowling center and I'm moving away from league bowling, hey, we're going to have to deal with some client disruption, but we also have to train and shape them to let them see like, hey, this allows you to do what you were doing and so much more. Like being able to do a lot of the same fundamentals, we're just pivoting that more to the digital landscape and pushing people into interacting with this mobile digital payment system from the word.
That's right. Okay, that's right. And please note, okay, so when cashless systems first came around, and Schaefer's a great example of this, they basically said, look, the minute that I think it was in the 80s where they said you can't smoke indoors anymore. They were like,
right.
They were like, now people were going outside, we were losing people. And so that's when they switched to cashless systems and moved and shifted their business from, I think, cigarette machines to maybe games. And what's fascinating is how they were able to look at, a 440% increase every single year simply from the credit card revenue increase. Okay. And the way they were able to shape the dialogue or the narrative with the customers was simply by saying, hey, we're going green. Right. This is better for the environment. I guess, different business owners will find whatever works for them. But what I do want to emphasize, if I may, is that mobile payments are used everywhere right now. Okay. Yeah. Starbucks, Target, you name it. It is
Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, all of it. I mean, we've got that heavy lifting already starting to happen. It's not like it's, and plus, side note, Europe's been doing this for 8 years with even more success. Like it's so much more, everyday life for them. But like I've got my Apple, like my Apple Pay, my this or that, like it's whether it's the gas station or the drive-through or whatever. Like this is where the customers, especially the younger demographics, like I have to keep track of a card. I don't want to know all of that stuff. Like it's all right here in the brick.
Yeah, and I want to just emphasize, so the consumer part of it is done. Yeah. There's no change management or change of behavior that has to be done there. What we're finding is it's in the FEC. It's training RSPs, it's training the management. And so this is why we created GoTrain, because this is something that I saw in my former life when I was, working in these top 10 brands, all high tech. I just saw that there were some world-class practices that we could apply in this industry. And one of them, in terms of layering value, was saying, hey, we have the GoTrain. These are trainers that we hired from Microsoft, actually, and they're professional field force trainers, and they go out into the field, and they've been doing this now for the last 2 years, is they go in and they train the FECs, the retail salespeople within the FECs, right? Just to basically say, okay, this is how you do it. They gamify it to make it to learn. Right. It takes a couple of hours. They get all the assets that they need, and then they're entered into contests to get incentives. And the incentives reward the RSPs for driving consumer uptake of mobile wallet. And it's just a win-win, right? It's a win-win for the RSPs, and it's also a win-win for the FPC owners who then are seeing their reload values going up dramatically. And once that happens, you get the Vicky Peaks of the world from Tilt Studio who are like, okay, what else do you have? How many more?
Let's go. I've got a taste for it. This is awesome, and let's start running with it too. That's awesome. So you and I always have a similar philosophy of, hey, whether we're the right fit or we're not the right fit, like there's going to be different criteria, and you always have some good insights of, hey, regardless of who you're talking to, like, here are some high-level things that you need to be thinking about with any technology partner, and just starting to see what that lay of the land looks like that's out there. Do you mind sharing a couple of those on the tech stack side?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. And again, I've been in tech forever. Okay. I've been in tech forever. And I can tell you that in coming into this industry, this was the first industry I've been in which you have business owners that are like, well, all solutions are the same. And what I've said to them is, no, they're not. And some things for you to consider when you're looking at technology partners, because there's nothing worse than saying, hey, you know what, I'm gonna make a change and I'm gonna go with this super cheap partner, and then that partner's out of business and you're stuck with a whole bunch of hardware and a whole bunch of software, or your business is down and it's unreliable. Right. And so what I always tell people is that, listen, you don't have to be a technologist to ask some fundamental questions. Okay? Such as, is it reliable? Okay? And what is their technology built on? Is it their own? Do they own the IP, or have they developed it with other tech partners? Okay. And if so, who are those tech partners? For example, when you invest in your business, that's a massive investment. Okay. It's not insignificant. And so you really want to know that not only are you going to get your ROI, but are you working with someone who's going to grow as you grow? Right. So are you working? And so, for example, in my case, when we went to talk to Amazon Web Services, we simply said to them, okay, so we're looking at our SaaS solutions. Where are we going to host, right? Where are we going to host the data of thousands of FECs? Yeah. Okay, this is the business data. Okay, this is a heart and soul. So where are we going to host that? Where it's going to be reliable. It's not going to, go down on a Saturday or a Sunday. And in case of fire, like with the LA fires, we called operators and said, listen, you are 5 miles from the epicenter of this fire. We have backed up your data. You are secure. Vacate your premises, please, and stay safe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so when we were talking to AWS, and we said, okay, tell us what your data, because everybody knows Amazon Web Services, but we wanted to understand, is this the right partner for us? Right. And as a partner, what they said to us was, not only do we do data centers, but, every time NASA puts a rocket into space, it is running on our platforms. Okay. We thought, okay, if they're good enough for NASA, they're good enough for us.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Seriously,
right?
though.
And we said, okay, who else are you working with? They're like, well, we're working with the NFL, with Facebook. I mean, you name it, Coca-Cola, right?
Sure.
All of the Disney, all of these major brands, right? That, for example, in the case of Disney, with all of their development and IP work and whatnot, stored on Amazon Web Services, and also working off of the Amazon Web Services tech platforms, because they're more than just storage. Mm-hmm. And so it was at that point that the plot really thickened, because then at that point we were saying, okay, well, what do you do with the NFL? And they said, well, we're taking POM technology so that instead of the consumer having to stand in line forever to get what could be a warm beer, right, and
Sure.
missing the game, they simply use the POM technology to go into a shop, grab everything that they want, and as they're walking out the door, they're automatically charged. It works the same way as mobile technology does with the eye and mobile encryption technology.
Yeah.
And we thought, this is fascinating. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why we ended up working with Amazon to develop Stats, which is that business intelligence dashboard that enables you to future cast and future plan your business, investing in what's working, divesting what's not. And as you're looking at the future, saying, hey, I'm going to run this promotion again. What's the manpower I need? The dashboard automatically does it for you. It's completely visual in nature, et cetera, et cetera. And that was jointly developed with Amazon Web Services. So when we talk with our customers about a product, right, and we say Amazon Web Services, they're like, okay, right, tick, I recognize that brand.
Right.
My business will be safe with them. Now, if you are talking to a business provider who tells you, oh, don't worry about who the brand is, a data center is a data center. Hey, it could be a server in the middle of the Midwest that's going to get wiped out during a storm, and you're going to lose all your data, and your business then goes down, right? Sure. And so it's always important to note that whatever the business solution is, you need to look at who are their partners, because their partners become your partners. Okay. And so this is the same thing goes for Apple. The same thing goes for Google. And I think it has served us well, if you will. It has served us well at Embed to have partnered and worked with them, because we got so much more than just tech solutions and platforms and all the stuff. We actually get knowledge transferring, right? Where they're basically saying, this is what we're doing in other industries, right? Here are the best practices for you. So what did we do? We started a team called the Success Squad. They take the best practices from FECs that are within the Embed family, and then they share it with other FECs that might be small, medium enterprise. And I have to tell you, what's fascinating is when you get reverse mentoring from an SME that is able to do something extraordinary, right? And sharing that then with a large, MNC FEC that then trials it in one location and says, hey, that idea worked. Rock on. Yeah. And sometimes it's an ordinary solution to an extraordinary problem. Yeah. And it's fascinating to see it in action. So this is what I would do, is I would just simply say, look, take a look at the tech solution. Do they own it? Or are they literally just a third party that's using someone else's tech solution and then kind of adding a little layer of profit for themselves and then selling it off to you? Are they going to continue to develop is another question you need to ask. And sorry, Russ, there's a long answer to this question, but
no, please.
This is so important, okay? Because I know there's a lot of people that are either excited or terrified about AI. At the end of the day, okay, you need to, look, you can reject AI, but you at least need to learn what it is and make an informed decision. And so in our case, what we did is we said, okay, when we saw what AWS was doing with the NFL, and the NFL is an everyday brand. Like, people don't look at the NFL and say, tech. But still, they're using technology, right, to enable this consumer experience. Yeah. And so what we did is we started looking at AI, and it is quite costly to develop anything, that has to do with AI, right? And so luckily, about 10,000 companies submitted ideas to Google, and the Singapore government and Google as a company basically ran this contest, and the 3 best ideas got sponsored. And I'm happy to say Embed was one of them. Right? So isn't that amazing? And we got $500,000 to develop our AI solution that is specifically for this industry. Yeah. Okay? And I'm telling you, the excitement of that, and when our customers are saying, like, what does this mean? I'm like, hold tight. Like, hold tight, because we're building this thing, and just what is, okay, I've signed on to the system. Is the system going to continue to grow so that I can also grow? Yeah. As opposed to when I arrived in the industry in 2019, I remember hearing someone, one of the players, basically say, "We will never change our hardware. We will never change our software." And I was like, when would Steve Jobs ever say we're going to stop innovating? Yeah. Right.
It's a bold move. And especially more so just because technology, even outside, like, it may be that you don't want to have to change, but maybe all of the services that you utilize start needing that level of tech. And then, how are you able to then get the most out of your other vendors and your other partners? I mean, that is to me where, and it's easier for me from coming from my old IT consulting days and all of that kind of stuff, where it was like, guys, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, we were looking at a video conferencing room costing you $75,000 or $150,000. And fast forward to 8 years later, where we're literally doing this podcast over a video call that would have cost a large entity hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to develop. And so now we can leverage that technology at an economic scale that works in a much better way. And so it's like, you could choose to kind of just, hey, this works, it's known, we're going to stick with it. But you're also going to be making the same money, if not less than what you were before, and it doesn't have to, we don't have to like welcome the hearkening of the Terminator, right? But like, we also need to make intelligent decisions about, hey, these are just basic consumer trends. The culture has shifted. And so
you're so funny.
We deal with reality on reality's terms a little bit. So,
you're so funny with the Terminator comment. That's hilarious. Yeah. And you know what? You're right. Okay. And I think it's I think I forgot where this quote came from, but basically it's a quote from a futurist who basically said, listen, in today's era with the democratization of information, which is what the technology of the internet provided to all of us, right? He literally said, you know, IQ today will not be measured by who can read and write. That's not literacy anymore. Okay.
Right.
Literacy is the ability to learn and unlearn new concepts and to embrace change. And of course, that's all tied, as we know, to technology. And I think what's important, and it's tied to technology, and in general, it's tied to having faith over fear. And I'm going to another example of this is as our customers were coming to us and saying, hey, you know, what else do you have? Right? Whenever somebody sees, you know, whenever they're able to move the needle, okay, or takes an old concept like, hey, 80% of your revenue is always going to come from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and all of a sudden, before you know it, your biggest performing day is a Monday.
Right.
They're going to come back to you and be like, okay, what else do you have that we can try?
Right.
Because at this point, we're building the muscle of trying things, of piloting things, which is why we took something that everybody does, and that's just basically said, hey, trial our SaaS solutions, 90 days free, which it's 120 days free. But the point is just try it. And if it works for you, great, then, you know, you can sign up. And if not, totally cool. But the point is, get that muscle memory of trying things. And what's fascinating is one of the biggest areas that I found, and again, this is so pedestrian because it's not even techie. Okay, now we're getting into banking. Is what we found is in this industry, there were so many business owners, and God bless them, you know, they're fun crusaders, right? They're not bankers.
Right.
Okay. So they don't really, they see credit card payment processing as that, you know, as that thing. It's like that thing that you have to embrace, that you just, you know, you've been promised a really great rate and you're assuming that you're getting it. Okay.
Right.
But what they don't know, because they don't know that industry, is simply that, you know, adding merchant fees randomly is legal. Okay. And so your effective rate is completely different than that 5% that you might have been promised. And so would you please, and this is, I think, is really brilliant of Renee, our CEO. Okay. Because this is not our wheelhouse. We're a tech company, right? But when we were looking at how do we layer value, because that's what some of our consulting sessions are with Amazon, where they're sharing with us best practices. They're like, how are you layering value with your success squad? And we said, hey, one of the biggest pain points for our customers is payments and payment processing, right? I mean, they're just like, I can't believe, you know, this is my hard-earned revenue and I'm just seeing it going away. And whenever you ask, even the most astute business owners, I might add, okay, I mean, savvy business owners, okay, when you ask them, what is your effective rate? You will see the eyes kind of glaze over and they're looking to the side and they're like, well, you know, I was promised this. I'm assuming that, you know, that's what I'm getting. Let me get my finance guy in the room. So what we did is we hired a couple of guys that come from payment processing, and we basically said, listen, you're gonna go from doing the devil's work, okay, to basically consulting for free, complimentary, all of our customers, and literally just looking at their statements and saying, oh man, go back to Chase. Right. These two line items that are merchant and that are basically merchant fees are exactly the same, and it's legal. They just gave it a different name. Go back to them, tell them to take this off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, and so much of that comes down to like, it's very easy to be in this kind of fixed growth mindset of just, okay, I've done this hard work. I learned enough about these things to be dangerous, and I don't want to have to think about that again. I want to focus on the fun. And it's like, it may not have to be you. It may be somebody on your team. Like there's a great book, Who Not How, that you look at with these kinds of things of like, if in order to play today's game, there's enough other moving parts that you may just need to have somebody who that is their love language. They're a spreadsheeter. They want to be able to do that they can get coached and trained up on where to, because if we're not inspecting what we expect, then that's when the drift happens and we realize we're not as profitable as we were. Like, so it takes nurturing, right? It's a little bit more like gardening where it's like, hey, we got to make sure we're plucking these weeds out. We have to double check these kinds of things, because even for your solopreneurs who get into this from the start, like, there's going to be a time where you're not able to physically do all of these things yourself. And the sooner that you can either leverage your partners who can bring some of this to the table, or someone on your team who can be a product knowledge champion of it. So that way, then you can start working on the business instead of in the business. Like that's when we see those leaps and bounds growth periods within any business.
Let me give you an example, okay? To your point, to the point that you're making right now, right? Because business owners, especially when it comes to their revenue, their money, right? And the reality is this: when you're using any kind of card system, technology system, the revenue flows through that system, right? So we're able to see the revenue that's flowing through. It's all confidential, of course. Sure. Obviously, hyper encrypted and all those things, and it's sitting at AWS.
Yeah.
But the point is that we were able to, in the case of payments, when a few of our FEC customers, right, our Embed family members, if you will, basically said, "Okay, here, have a look, right? Just let me know, just in the case of let me know, do I have a good rate?"
Right.
And I have to tell you, it just took a few life-changing examples for all of our customers, whether they were small or like the 17 location size FECs, that they're like, "Here you go.
Yeah.
Have a look," right? Whether they had a CFO, whether they had a chief financial officer or not. And I think the one case that I think probably touched us the most and brought tears to our eyes was a single, FEC that thought she had a great rate, but she did not, because her effective rate, which is basically what you've made minus all the fees.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And so what she found is that she was losing $56,000 a year. Okay, and in 10 years, that's over $500,000. That's a life changer. That's like paying off your house, cars, business expansion, you name it, your kids, university schooling, etc.
Yeah.
And I remember as we were having this conversation with this partner, how embittered they were that they had that same rate because they didn't want to change.
Right.
For 10 years. So they'd already lost more than $500,000, right? And while we helped them get on a better rate, right? At the same time, what we were able to do was to educate, and again, life changer, but also educate the members of the Embed family. And again, this is the layering value as a tech partner on the fact that, hey, how reliable is your payment system?
Mm-hmm.
And if it goes down and you lose your connectivity, are you still going to be able to process payments?
You're right.
Right.
Yeah. It's going to batch locally and then upload once you get a connection reestablished, or you're going to tell folks like, hey, see the little, Sharpie sign that says cash only.
Yeah. And then are you protected from chargebacks?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so it's being able to provide that added value, even if that is not necessarily our domain expertise, that then helps our customers. Right. Yeah. And so I always just tell people in the industry, hey man, how do you layer value? Mm-hmm. Right. You got to think about that. Because that is, that's what our fun crusaders deserve, if you will. And it does make a world's difference, but you have to be willing to change and to learn and to grow.
Yeah. The moment we stop tinkering and experimenting is the day, it's like if you're not growing, you're dying. It's that whole thing of like, man, it's just, there's always great new things to be able to learn and adopt and experiment, try out. Like it may not be the right fit for you right now, but then as you go, the missed opportunities of not taking some of those low risk chances can have a huge impact on what you look like as a business 5 years from now, or even 18 months from now, depending on what that could be. So I've had a pleasure geeking out with you about this, Sara. It's been a hoot. Before I let you go, I'd love to, I love to ask our guests when they come on, is there any either podcast that you're listening to right now that's rocking your socks? Is there a book that you've read recently or continually come back to, or a quote, a good North Star that is say, hey, this is something that always serves me well, and plant the seed in the minds of the listeners?
Oh, absolutely. But let me tell you, Russ, it has been such a pleasure nerding out with you. I love it. It's such good fun, right? Like exploring the things that are coming up and innovations and, ordinary solutions to extraordinary problems. Like I love all of that. Right. And anyway, to answer your question, yes. Right. Because here's the thing. If I'm telling, members of the Embed family that they need to continuously learn, obviously I model that behavior myself. Yeah. And so I've always got audiobooks going, and even from Tim Ferriss. Right.
Yes.
Right. Tools of Titans, start there. If you're just going to start with Audible, right?
So good. It's an awesome coffee table book or a bathroom book. So if you're there and you're having some time to muse, like the way that that's just quick, snappy, he breaks that book down, into like all of these different, hey, this is business, this is health, this is that. But you've got just the titans, literally, that he's got in there, hence the name. But man, I love that book. Good,
right?
Good one.
You're right. It's a snippet and it basically delivers a punch. So Tools of Titans, Tribe of Mentors. So anything from Tim Ferriss, obviously anything from T. Robbins, obviously, right?
Yes.
And one of my favorite quotes, well, you know what, honestly though, if you just go into the podcast universe and also into Audible, you can find these extraordinary thinkers that will constantly knowledge transfer you and really set you on the right track. And, I love, this is something that Danny and I talk about all the time, how much we love our quotes.
Yeah.
Right? Because just a few little words strung together poetically have the power to inspire and change your day. And so I always there's a couple of ones that I rotate all the time. And for my teams, for example, I always tell them, listen, don't get sidetracked by people who are not on track. Okay. Just stay, make a plan your work. There you go, and execute. And then I think, there's so many. The other one that I always tell people when I'm trying to be philosophical and big is that life isn't happening to you, it's happening for you. Right? And if you look at it through that lens, whatever it is that you're looking for, you're always going to find. Right? Yeah. If you're faith over fear, if you're looking for positivity, if you're looking for success, you can find that. But if you're looking for disappointment, and you're looking at life through the lens of scarcity, that's always what you're going to find. Yes. Right? And so that, to answer a few questions, and I'll tell you this, Mel Robbins is on a streak at the moment, right? Her own streak of awesomeness with her podcast. I just think, you know what, for anyone who's on here and they're like, I don't have time to read, get Audible. When you're in the car, you can listen to it. It rocks. Podcast, the same thing. And that's a way of continuously learning and evolving and growing.
Big time. Yeah, that's as close to multitasking as I trust myself to go, is listening to that while driving or doing a workout or whatever. It's definitely my preferred method to digest all the good new stuff, for sure. So,
that's
well,
right,
Sara,
yes.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us on this episode. We'll have more content coming your guys' way. Get this wherever you find your podcasts, and we'll have our weekly episodes rolling out for you. If you liked what you heard today, please don't hesitate to give us that 5-star review, only if we've earned it. And if you have any ideas that you would like to see for upcoming content, if we need to have Sara back, we need to go down another rabbit hole of nerding out, hit us up. We'd love to hear from you and add that back into the mix. And man, always a pleasure to be able to rock out with you guys. Big shout out as always to Mikey Mike on the 1s and 2s working the Ultranet for us. And thank you all for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next one, Troublemakers.
Woo-hoo!